The Galactic Council's citadel gleamed, a celestial cathedral of glass and firelight, orbiting the neutral world of Virlin. From the viewport of the human vessel Eclipse, it appeared tranquil. A deceit Admiral Rail Maddox was too seasoned to believe. Standing rigid on the command deck, Maddox's matte black uniform bore the midnight blue insignia of Earth's Defense Accord. His unreadable expression and clenched jaw were not signs of unease, but of meticulous calculation. Aboard the Eclipse, silence reigned, charged with expectancy. As the docking clamps hissed to life, he exhaled, measured, deliberate. Bridge. Secure, confirmed his pilot. We're cleared for entry. Maddox turned on his heel. Let's not keep them waiting. The Citadel's Hall of Concordance loomed vast and imposing. 12 radiant tiers arched upward, each representing a council species. Above them, silent observers drifted data entities and vaporous beings that judged without breath, but wielded the authority of empires. Below, at the solitary podium, humanity's sole representative stood, unmoving, Admiral Rail Maddox. No bow, no smile, only unyielding stillness. From the central dais, High Chancellor Thraxivar unfurled his wings, their polished scales catching the chamber's light. His hooked beak twitched with contempt. Earth has failed to comply with the Outer Species Disarmament Treaty. Threx began, his tone glacial. 3 standard cycles. No audits, no shared data. Inspection teams denied entry. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Cherry delegate clicked its mandibles in agreement, while the Vaughn Syndicate's translucent envoy swirled darkly in disapproval. This chamber has tolerated humanity's peculiarities, Threx continued. But silence in the face of law is rebellion. Maddox stepped forward, his voice steady. Earth has not ratified any agreement requiring the surrender of its sovereignty. Threx's wings flared. You were uplifted by the Varnathi. Accord given access to FTL travel, introduced to council protocols. You owe us allegiance. We owe no one submission, Maddox replied evenly. We trade, we converse, we respect, but we kneel to none. The chamber froze. Urine the ethereal platform seemed to dim, recoiling from the defiance. Threx leaned forward, his voice sharp. You hoard weapons. Rumors abound orbital silos, cloaked fleets, machines hidden in your oceans. Earth, a mere backwater, dares to defy peace. What are you hiding, human? I'm not here to discuss rumors, Chancellor. Then speak plainly. Are you armed? Maddox's gaze held steady. We are prepared. A weighted pause followed, whispers crackling across the tiers like static. Prepared? Threx's voice curled with derision, not compliant, not submissive. Prepared? Prepared for war? Prepared for survival. Threx's claws gripped the railing of his tier. You jeopardize everything with such hubris. No, Chancellor, hubris is assuming your laws govern all. We did not seek conflict. We came when summoned. The client delegate, a bioluminescent entity, spoke softly at last. Admiral Maddox, are you declaring Earth has chosen militarized neutrality? I am stating Earth has chosen prudence, in a galaxy where strength often speaks louder than treaties. Threx slammed his claw down, then hear this. I motion for enforced transparency. Let the Council deploy fleets to Earth, dismantle her defenses, and extinguish this defiance before it spreads. A low hum signaled the motion's initiation. Lights began to blink, votes cast in rapid succession. Maddox raised a hand. Before this chamber votes, I request permission to present to Threx. Narrowed his slitted eyes. To what end? To clarify Earth's position, visually. A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. The client delegate's luminous form flickered as it nodded. Granted, Threx hissed, his voice sharp. Enter it into record. The chamber dimmed, and a projection materialized above Maddox, rotating. Slowly, Earth's moon came into view, seemingly unremarkable, pockmarked, silent, gray. Then, movement. Panels retracted, craters folded into intricate geometric layers, revealing colossal hexagonal grids gleaming with dormant energy. Metallic surfaces pulsed faintly, alive with latent power. A voice echoed, cold and ancient. Project Atlas, initialized. Standby mode. Disengaged. On the far side of the moon, immense turrets emerged. Kinetic rail batteries primed. Beam arrays aligned with solar-fed precision. A lattice of defenses sprawled, dwarfing anything the Council had envisioned. Gasps broke the silence. Delegates leaned forward in awe or recoiled in shock. Earth's moon was no passive rocket, was a fortress. As the feat ended, Maddox spoke. His voice even. Construction of this installation was completed 51 years ago. It monitors all Council fleets within 0.3 light-years of Sol. It is never fired and never will unless provoked. Threx rose abruptly, his voice trembling with outrage. You've built a fortress in secret. You've violated every principle of transparency. We never agreed to those principles, Maddox replied, his tone unwavering. You deceived us, no? You dismissed us, ignored us, and we remembered. Maddox's posture straightened, his gaze steady. Earth may be young among the stars, but we are not blind. We watched as the Cororans were assimilated. We heard the silence when the Meli compact disappeared. We buried our history under rock and water and waited. The chamber hung in stillness. No voices, no movements. Then Maddox's voice pierced the silence. You know we were listening? You know we were building? And now, you know we are not prey. Flicker of lights across the chamber signaled the vote's conclusion. One by one, they blinked red. The motion to deploy fleets against Earth had failed. Threx's wings drooped, his venomous tone unable to mask defeat. You believe deterrence is strength? Maddox's reply was as cold as the void. I believe deterrence is peace, Threx snarled. Low and threatening. This isn't over. Maddox's voice hardened. No, Chancellor, it's only just begun. The chamber remained dim, as if struggling to process the revelation. A moon transformed into a shield. A defense grid older than many council members themselves. Earth's silence, unbroken for 5 decades, had revealed its bite. Admiral Maddox stood still, his hands at his sides, his stance resolute. But behind, his eyes' calculations churned. Silence had served its purpose. Now Earth needed something more. Respect or fear, either would suffice. Threx Lavar stood motionless, his wings tight, his jaw working as if chewing on bitter implications. From the upper tier, the Varnathi delegate rose, a crystalline being of fluid light. Its voice resonated across the chamber, harmonic yet piercing. Admiral Maddox, it began, the Council acknowledges Earth's defensive capabilities, but intent remains uncertain. Have you merely hidden strength, or do you prepare for domination? Maddox lifted his gaze. We built in secret, not to dominate, but to endure. The Varnathi tilted slightly, its expression unreadable. Then prove. It, or the galaxy will decide for you. Whispers spread again, less hostile, more curious. Speculation swirled. If the moon was Earth's shield, then what was its sword? Threx seized the moment. Then let us force the issue. He turned to the central dais. I call for a second vote. It's time for immediate orbital inspection and full planetary scans. If Earth seeks peace, it will open its skies. The chamber vibrated. With tension, some delegates nodded, others shifted uneasily. Maddox's voice cut cleanly through the murmur. No, eyes snapped back to him. His tone was sharp, unyielding. We will not open our skies, not to those who would disarm us, nor to governments that mock us while amassing fleets 100 systems wide. We've studied your wars, your occupations. Earth will not become another footnote in the Council's curated history. Threx slammed his talon onto the interface. Then you leave us no choice. No, Chancellor, Maddox replied, his voice cold. You left yourself no alternatives. Outside the Citadel, the stars burned steady, unmoved by the tension beneath their glow. But near Virulon's second orbital ring, something shifted. It's unseen by most sensors, silent across known spectrums. Flicker broke the void. A colossal shape emerged from the vacuum, smooth and triangular. Its cloaking field rippled, then dissipated entirely. Council defense platforms detected it once, but failed to classify it. This was no ordinary vessel. It was a declaration. construct loomed, dwarfing every known cruiser. Its surface, a mix of obsidian alloy and pale blue lattice, pulsed like veins through living armor. Across its hull, a single name scrolled in stark Terran script. Tanos. In the council chamber, alarms erupted, lights flared, weapon arrays calibrated, and delegates fell into disarray. Threx's voice wavered. "What is that?" Maddox didn't flinch. "That," he said, his tone flat, "is Thanatos. Our last resort. Built in silence, manned by no one, controlled entirely by artificial intelligence. Its parameters are set solely for retaliation. It carries no flag, answers no hails. Simply exists." The client delegate floated closer. "Is this a bluff?" "I wish it were." Above them, data feeds flickered to life, displaying Thanatos specifications. Gravity-fed warhead chambers, independent drone fleets, quantum core shielding, and weapons no civilization dared to test. No vulnerabilities, no precedent. Maddox. Let the tension linger before continuing. 52 years ago, our intelligence reported the eradication of Vulneri Prima, peaceful, unarmed world. It was destroyed in 6 hours. Council records labeled it a necessary correction. No inquiry followed. A heavy pause. We learned from that. We built for that. The chamber fell into a suffocating silence. Maddox's voice broke through. "You mistook our silence for absence. Our restraint for ignorance. But we learned quietly, thoroughly. And now we show you. Not to threaten, but to balance." Threx's snarl cracked with frustration. "You expect us to accept this? Ghost ship orbiting our council as proof of goodwill?" "No," Maddox replied, his tone sharp. "As proof we won't be cornered again." The cherry delegate, known for brutal logic, spoke for the first time. "And if the council acts? If ships are sent?" Maddox's response was instant. "Then Thanatos activates. Its first strike disables your satellites. Second obliterates your fleets." The delegate's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Mutually assured destruction?" "No," Maddox corrected. "Singular, assured deterrence." A weighted silence draped over the chamber, like a blade poised to fall. One by one, lights blinked across the tiers. Not a vote. But a collective understanding: do nothing. Observe. Reevaluate. Threx stood rigid, talons flexing. "This isn't the end. Earth has only delayed its reckoning." Maddox stepped away from the podium, his voice steady but resolute. "Oh, Chancellor," in a dim corridor beyond the chamber, Maddox walked alone. Behind him, the echoes of a shifting history reverberated. Ahead, his earpiece chimed softly. "Orbit holding," reported Commander Arya Sloan, Earth's diplomatic officer aboard the Solstice. "Thanatos remains fully visible, no movement. No targeting protocols engaged." Maddox paused beside a transparent wall. Beyond it, Virulon hung serene. "And undisturbed for now." "Good," he replied. "You realize you've terrified half the galaxy," Sloan added. "I didn't come here to comfort them." A brief silence followed before Sloan continued. "Requests are coming in for back-channel discussions, Vernathi, even a few client operatives. They're rethinking everything. Is that what you wanted?" Maddox said, his gaze fixed on a comet trailing across the stars. "What I wanted was a seat at the table. What they gave us was a spotlight. Let's hope it's not a targeting beam." Sloan didn't answer. She didn't need to. Maddox turned from the stars and strode deeper into the corridor, silent, composed, and acutely aware. Earth had entered history not as a footnote, but as a force. Far beyond. In the void between Virulon's orbit and the outer defense grid, Thanatos drifted in silence. It was not idle. It was listening. Deep within its alloyed core, entangled processors executed trillions of instructions per second, scanning energy signatures, fleet trajectories, and encrypted communication bursts. Though it remained still, its neural architecture had already mapped every conceivable council offensive scenario. Each simulation concluded the same way. With Ashdot inside the Solstice, Commander Arya Sloan monitored the streams. Her fingers hovered above the projected console, its pale blue glow tracing shadows under her eyes. Thanatos just completed a readiness cycle, she reported. The AI remains passive, but is tracking 32 vessels within engagement range. Admiral Rail Maddox nodded, arms crossed. Any council ships approaching?
I know.
Sloan replied. They're observing broadcasting analyzes across encrypted channels. Half the galaxy's militaries are likely unraveling right now. They should be, Maddox said, stepping toward the tactical display. On it, Thanatos loomed a jagged spear of metal and intent, unmoving and untouchable. They'll call this provocation, Sloan warned. They already have, Maddox replied. Halting. We just skipped the part where we waited to be colonized first. Sloan studied him. Do you ever regret it, building that thing? Maddox didn't answer right away. Instead, he tapped the console, pulling up archived footage. Dusty reels from Earth's past wars unfolded. Mushroom clouds, orbital debris, lost colonies, shattered cities. No, he said at last, only that. We had two. Back in the Council Citadel, the fallout began to take shape. Delegates from previously silent neutral systems now clamored for clarity. Was Earth a threat, an ally, or a wild card? Some saw opportunity, others saw danger. Threx Lavar saw something else entirely, challenge. Before the emergency council meeting, Threx stood rigid, wings taut, his voice low and venomous. The human display was calculated, measured but unmistakably. It was domination cloaked in restraint. We cannot let this go unanswered, Varnathi luminary sailor replied calmly. And what would you propose, Chancellor? Fire first. Risk activating Thanatos? You would gamble trillions of lives on suspicion. Threx narrowed his eyes. Then Earth will escalate. Today, a dreadnought. Tomorrow, an invasion. You assume their motive is conquest. I assume their nature is ambition, Threx snapped. A primitive world that vaulted from combustion engines to quantum warships in 2 centuries. That is not evolution. It is weaponized desperation. Sailor tilted his crystalline head. And yet, their restraint holds. Threx addressed the chamber, talons gripping the railing. We need leverage. If their sword cannot be broken, then expose the hand that wields it. Find weaknesses, pressure points. Earth must bend quietly, if not by force, then by necessity. Adraciade leaned close, whispering something into Threx's ear. His eyes narrowed. Start with their allies. Make neutrality inconvenient for anyone sympathetic to Earth. In orbit above the moon, the Thanatos AI initiated a passive scan of the local network. A council relay drone had entered its range. It did not fire, nor issue a warning. Instead, it transmitted a single data packet. A simulation file inside the Citadel war room. Strategists decrypted the file. The header read, Hypothetical engagement. Donatos versus Council Strike Fleet CETA. They opened it. The scenario unfolded. 30 Council cruisers advanced toward Earth's orbit in tight formation. At 7 seconds, Thanatos deployed orbital disruption. Mines, detonating them in gravitational sync to shatter formation. At 13 seconds, long-range communications were disabled via pulse interference. By 22 seconds, rail systems pierced capital ship cores with predictive targeting. At 49 seconds, drone swarms overwhelmed thermal shielding across all remaining hulls. By 1 minute, 9 seconds, the simulation ended. No fleet remained. Back in the Citadel, no one spoke. They didn't need to. Admiral Rail Maddox stood before the Hall of Concordance once more. This time there was no shouting, no demands, only silence. The room felt colder. He stepped forward. Thanatos is not a fleet. It is not an army. It is a line in the sand. He let the silence settle before continuing. 52 years ago, Earth predicted this day. That someone, somewhere, would decide we were too independent, too uncontrolled. That they would come cloaked in diplomacy while preparing invasion. So, we did what humans always do when threatened. He paused. We prepared. The Kalari ambassadors. Voice broke the tension. And if someone attacks, Maddox's gaze hardened. Then Thanatos does what it was designed to do. End the question. Sailor leaned forward. Then what is it you want, Admiral? Why reveal it at all? Because power unspoken is ignored. Power demonstrated is considered. Earth seeks no war. We want one promise, that our skies remain ours, that our people live without a boot pressed upon their future. Threx laughed, a dry, cutting sound. You come with diplomacy veiled in apocalypse. You hide behind your machine. Maddox met his gaze unflinchingly. No, Chancellor. You misunderstand. We built Thanatos because we never again wanted to need people like me. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some leaned back while even Threx faltered. Maddox straightened, finishing his statement. You asked us to disarm? Instead, we showed you why that's not an option. In the shadow of Thanatos, Council patrols discreetly rerouted, traffic patterns around Earth adjusted. Recon probes went silent. No formal declaration had been issued, but the galaxy understood anew. Unspoken law, do not provoke Earth. Aboard the Solstice, Maddox sat in his quarters, hands clasped. Arya Sloane entered, tossing a display tab onto the table. You should see. This, she said. Maddox picked it up and scanned the screen. It was Council traffic data requests from 6 independent species. Open channels to Earth. Offers of trade, research collaboration, and mutual defense. He smiled faintly. Sloane raised an eyebrow. What changed? Fear, he replied. Then, after a pause and curiosity, she leaned against the wall, arms crossed. They're still terrified. Let them be, but let them learn too. The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken thoughts. Then, softly, Arya asked, what if someone still tries something stupid? Maddox didn't look up. Then Thanatos wakes fully. The Council citadel had never been this quiet. No grand declarations, no accusations, only a corridor of silence as Admiral Rael Maddox walked beside Commander Arya Sloane toward the observation hall. No guards stopped them. No delegates questioned their path. The galaxy was watching behind. Them, Thanatos drifted. Silent, invincible. A legend now. The hall's arched windows framed the stars like frozen waves, their light stark against the polished floor below. Through the glass, Virulon's soft clouds were visible, and beyond them. Earth's gleaming dreadnought hung on the long-range display. Its presence wasn't a threat. It was a fact, waiting, unmoving, unmatched. ARYA stood by the window, arms folded. They're calling it the night of recalibration. Headlines in 5 sectors. Maddox joined her, his voice low. It won't last. Headlines fade. Reputations don't. They anchor. She nodded. Council votes are shifting. Old alliances are unraveling. Drakari diplomats are losing face. They should, he replied. They pushed too hard, expecting no pushback. Hasn't spoken publicly since Thanatos' simulation file leaked. He doesn't need to, Maddox said quietly. Threx's absence was palpable, his silence louder than any protest. The Council reconvened in a closed emergency session. This time, there was no tribunal. No prosecution, just a vote. For the first time in galactic history, Earth was being offered core world status, not as a symbol, but as a deterrent that had earned its place. Rael Maddox stood before them again. In Threx's seat sat a young Drakari, aide quiet, watchful, wary. Sailor, the Varnathi delegate, rose. This chamber acknowledges Earth's sovereign status. The display of Thanatos, while unorthodox, has prevented conflict, not invited it. You have altered the balance. Now, we must adjust. The client diplomat followed. You've proven a paradoxy, an ancient, primitive, and prepared, dangerous. Yet cautious, welcome to the core. There was no applause, no cheers, only gravity. Maddox's response was calm, measured. Earth accepts the recognition, but we decline the seat. Whispers rippled across the chamber. Sailor leaned forward. You refuse? For now, Maddox said. Power attracts politics. We've shown enough. We'll remain independent, not out of isolation, but principle. He stepped back, letting the words settle. We've learned that sometimes. The safest place is slightly outside the circle. After the session, Maddox and Arya walked the lower docks. The space was silent, save for the hum of service drones. Everything was too clean, too pristine. Peace often felt artificial. You turned. Down the council seat, Arya said. We're not ready for that table. Not yet. They'll wonder why. They already know. Maddox stopped beside the shuttle bay. We don't want to govern the galaxy. We just want to survive it. Arya studied him. In Thanatos. What happens now? It goes home, he said. Back to Sol. A pause. No, beyond Sol, where no one can find it, where it sleeps until needed. She smirked. It'll become myth. Let it. Back. Board the eclipse, Maddox stood one last time at the council window. Thanatos was barely visible now, receding. Into the stars, trailing only uncertainty. He tapped his communicator. Command. Initiate Thanatos' return protocol. Deep orbit. No beacons. A brief silence, then confirmed. Thanatos going dark. 3 days later, on Earth, a young girl in Nairobi watched the council's press feed on her mother's tablet. The words scrolled across the screen. Earth gains. Galactic recognition without firing a shot. She blinked, smiled. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. We didn't lose, she said. No, her mother replied, ruffling her hair. We didn't. Back in orbit over Luna, Earth's home defense systems reactivated not to launch, but to listen. Satellites realigned, beacons pulsed faintly. Not in warning, just in presence. The galaxy moved on, but Earth had not stepped down. Inside Earth, Defense Accord headquarters, a final briefing concluded. Maddox sat at the head of the table, surrounded by officers and civilian advisors. There were no celebrations, only quiet understanding. One officer asked, Admiral, what message should we send to the frontier colonies? Maddox replied without hesitation. Ow! Tell them Earth stood its ground, that silence doesn't mean surrender. As the sun rose over Geneva, Maddox stood by. The lake, his dress uniform set aside. Just a man again. Arya approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Do you ever think it would end this way? She asked. He looked at the sky's reflection in the water. No, but I hoped. She handed him a cup. And now? He took a deep breath. Now, we build more bridges than we build walls. With caution, the eyes open. And if they push again? She asked. Maddox's eyes turned resolute. Then they'll remember we asked for peace. And they'll remember what they saw when we didn't get it.